He hane washte chue. Good morning.
He honey wash day. Today is a good day. I think when we wake up every morning that we can wake up and open up our eyes, we got to say we are blessed because we still have our mission to fulfill. So I really had a difficult time here trying to gather my thoughts in regards to what I wanted to talk about. There's so much that I want to say in regards to things that do not apply in today's world with the Lakota's way of life in the past. And so it became difficult, but I think one of the things I'm going to try and focus on is some of the values that we live by and how it does not apply, how it does not work in today's world today, and why we become so dysfunctional over it. But I will go ahead and start with a prayer this morning. I think we all really need prayers because there's so much heavy things happening out there in today's world. Tunkashila Ampetule Wopila Tanka. Creator, we thank you for another day you have given us. I send my prayers, we say our prayers for all those who are in the need of prayers today, especially for our children who are returning back to school with everything that's happening. Please protect our children and guide them and protect them as they go to school, and to know that there is so much that they have to prepare in the world. I send my prayers up throughout the land for all those who are ill, who need prayers, who may be suffering with other things that may be stressing them out in their day-to-day life. I send my prayers up for all the compassionate people, for I know that life has become a little bit more unbearable for a lot of us. And so with that, Punkashila, hear my prayers and send your blessings down to us. Ho, Mitakuyase.
Mitakuyase.
Good morning. I don't know how many listeners we have out there. Maybe it's just you and I are going to be conversing here. But one of the things I wanted to go ahead and start out with is the concept of time. And I think that really, really connects with the time and the way of life for us in today's world, compared to what it used to be a long time ago when our ancestors pretty much lived their life according to the sun and the moon, the season and everything else. And so we say things happen the way they do. However, in today's world, that's just really not what's happening, and it becomes dysfunctional for a lot of us. And I see it so much with our leaders on the reservation, because I don't think they realize that the dysfunctional culture of time will lead to the decline in performances and productivity of where they need to go to advance themselves. But we always say we're running on Indian time, or it becomes a joke for us, to say, oh, yeah, I'm on Indian time, and which for a lot of us, I think we can understand the in-depth part of things happen the way they're supposed to happen, and we have no control over that.
Mm-hmm.
But in today's world, when we live in a dominant society, we have to go ahead and be on schedule a lot of times, or else we're not going to accomplish anything. And I think the dominant society really doesn't understand, okay, well, I got here late, and I just kind of saw that happen with a couple of my coworkers lately, is, the traffic, delayed them from getting to work, but yet they still have a rule that they say if you're late, so many times you can get fired. And I've seen that happen, and I said, oh my goodness, they don't really understand the whole concept of if they were Russian, maybe they would have gotten into an accident or whatever. So with the concept of time, I really see that it has affected a lot of people, not only our Indian people, but everybody elsewhere, where we are so much on a fast pace of running against time every day. And we see ourselves knowing we haven't accomplished. Sometimes I wish, there was more than 24 hours in a day for the things that need to be accomplished. But that, I think, kind of leads to a lot of us when we stress out our lives with some of the beliefs that we have, and it does not apply in today's world. So I'm going to kind of use our Lakota, one of our Lakota virtues about compassion. Compassion is what used to be because we all lived cohesively and we understood it way back when they all lived in clans, bands, or the tribes lived together because they were all given a role, a responsibility to function. And nowadays we don't have that, and it really causes a lot of dysfunction within our own people. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about Lakota way because I see it when I go home. Is basically you have just a few, and you just have a few that have so much compassion that they self-sacrifice their own time, their own well-being, their own health to help others, and yet they don't get it. I mean, nobody comes and helps someone when they're in a time of need. We don't understand that, or young people don't understand that. And I'm going to go back to where I feel, this is my opinion, where it happened is I think a lot of our way of life kind of diminish the meaningness of all our Lakota values from the boarding school era. When they told us our way of life was wrong. So with that, with a lot of us elders that still kind of hang on to our beliefs, and I think the beliefs and goes back to that we know who we are as Indian people, and this is us. If we let go of our beliefs, then we're no longer a people. I don't know if I'm making sense there.
You are, because there's a cohesiveness in that. Yeah.
Yes, and we don't have that anymore. And Mitankala, I know that you've been around our people in regards to the concept of time and where things happen on the reservation when we have a gathering. What is your perspective when you see that, okay, we're running on Indian time? What do you think about that in your own mind, I guess?
Well, for me, when I hear somebody saying, when somebody is not excusing their own lack of whatever respect on being on time, that's one thing, and that happens everywhere. But when somebody says at ceremonies we're running on Indian time, for me that means that it's being led by spirit, and we're going, as Philip Whiteman always says, it's not in ceremonies, it's not about being on time, it's about being in time.
Yes.
So for me, when we're being in time, that means that we're allowing Spirit, Creator, to guide us rather than us, snapping our finger on our watch, wanting it in human time. Does that make sense, Del?
Yes, yes. Well, that's just one of the things that I was going to say is I don't think that people really have the understanding of the time concept of things happening the way they're supposed to happen. I don't think they really think about the in-depth part of knowing, okay, you know what, geez, well, just for example, the other day, I usually leave for work about 1:15 here, and we weren't getting out of here, in time. Well, they have road construction up the street here, and when we didn't leave on time and we were getting there was a car accident because it was a one-lane road.
Wow.
And I thought to myself at that time, okay, this is Tungashilas, or this is, our guardian angels or whatever, delaying us because maybe it cost us in that accident. So every situation, whenever I'm not on time, then I have to kind of process that.
Right.
And a lot of people don't do that, with what we say Indian time. But when you think about time right now, the way it used to be, all the way of the harvesting, when people would plant, or like even our ancestors would go hunting to prepare for the season, or do berry picking and everything. They had this concept of knowing that they went by the sun and the moon, just like August is a time for berry picking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now we have to understand that that's changed because of the ecology of, the global warming. Everything has changed.
Right.
So then it causes some confusion.
Mm-hmm.
And right away people think about, oh my God, where do you place this when you think about, oh my God, we done something wrong. That's why we don't have enough berries this season.
Right.
I don't like to think about it that way, and I think it's just because whatever they say to me is decolonize yourself, and I say to myself, you know what? But still, we have to advance.
Right.
We have to advance in today's world because everything is changing. We can't keep thinking the old way. We could keep some of it, but yet it becomes dysfunctional with a lot of things. Like even the time of the Sundance, when they talk about, oh yeah, you're being punished. I don't like to think of it that way. You're punished because you didn't do this.
Right.
And I think it's really caused a lot of people to think negatively, and I think that's one of the things I see about saying we're dysfunctional in that aspect, is we're always being punished because we didn't do something. And I get tired of hearing that.
Yeah, it reminds me of a preacher up on a pulpit talking about shame and blame and all of those things.
Well, really, because, when you really think about it, our emotions run rampant when we're being told that you did something wrong,
Yes.
and then you're trying to understand, what did I do wrong?
Right.
What did we do wrong? Or like, you didn't finish your ceremony. You didn't finish your wopulas in a timely manner. This is why these things are happening. And I'm thinking, you know what? That's really not what I was taught, because Tunkashilas are compassionate. Why are they going to punish us?
Right.
So I saw a lot of that with the time of how evolution happens to our people. And when I see a lot of our ceremonies, or the Sundance especially, knowing that yeah, you got to do these and whatever, So again, you have people telling you that you did something wrong, or you're not doing it right. And like I had mentioned last month, is where do we know where what is right and what is wrong? Because none of it has been written down, from our teachings. A long time ago, it used to be, like I say, everything was decided cohesively. The whole tribe thought about everything, and they knew what was going to happen. Everybody was aware. Everybody, comprehended what needed to happen. But now that's not happening because we're all so spread apart.
Right.
So anyway, that's one of the things about time that I kind of wanted to say, and I'm not really sure, but it goes back to again the time concept of where we do our ceremonies, depending on the moon, the sun, the full moon, and everything else, and we have to realize sometimes, that there might be a storm. There might be a storm, or we can't do something, but there's always that reason behind why we can't do it, but we should not be placed in a position that we feel guilty about it. And I think in today's world, especially the people that believe it, God, we live with guilt.
We sure do.
There's so
Absolutely.
much guilt.
Yeah.
And and is that good for our mental health?
No.
I just really think that's not the way it's supposed to be. When somebody puts guilt on you, or you're shamed.
Yes, shame is a terrible thing as well. I agree. Yeah.
So those, like I say, that's probably the dysfunctional part of, some of our Lakota virtues, the prayers that we're supposed to say at a given time, and it doesn't happen just because something else happened, or maybe your body's so tired that you don't get up, in time to go say your morning prayers, and then you wake up, oh my God, I forgot to say my prayers. So then you go feeling guilty again,
Right.
But all in all, I think I really see the generosity, the compassion that we have does not apply anymore in today's world, because we probably were at fault again. Here I am, feeling guilty again. We are at fault for not teaching our young ones, what we know. But I have to process that and to say, you want to teach it, but who wants to listen? You don't have these young people eager to listen. They don't want to learn. Oh, how was the old way? How did it apply to understand? They're so busy, and so you can't. The communication part of a family, even, or like even your own kinship. There's really a lot of misunderstanding, and when there's a lot of understanding, fear, anger flares up, and that causes a dysfunctional home.
Right. So, Del, what do you say to young people who say to you, well, that's old school, that's the old way, it doesn't apply today, that's a bunch of old superstition, Indian stuff, and it has no place in the modern day world?
I've had that said to me by my kids. But one of the things that I say, in fact, yesterday I was talking to a little young gal, and I gave her positive strokes at work, and she's non-native, but I told her, I said, you don't want to hear these things, but I said, I'm going to go ahead and plant the seed. Mm-hmm. You may not hear about it, but I said, think about it, chew on it, smell it, touch it, whatever, and I said, you're going to remember these words when in the past, in the future. Mm-hmm. So that's my whole thing whenever I tell these young people, why you may not want to hear it, just like I didn't want to hear my dad and my mom talking to me, Yeah. But when you sit there quietly, you bank it into your mind, and sometimes, you use what they say, and then you understand, you ableza, oh my God, I didn't really realize this is what they were talking about, So that's usually what I tell them. Maybe you don't want to hear this, but, just listen, because you may use it in the future.
Right.
And I hear that a lot of times. In fact, working with high-risk youth, there was a lot of times that they really didn't understand. And I was, I make Leslie laugh, because I tell her, I said, I've got some fans, at work, and they're young kids, but at dinner time, there's three of them that come and sit at our table because they want to hear us old folks, tell our stories, Mm-hmm. And I say, learn from this, because in the future you may be in that position to know that, there might not be any electricity. How are you going to survive,
Mm-hmm.
Because I said, what comes around comes around. What goes around comes around is what I say. Is you might be in a situation where you will go back to the way we lived long time ago, when we had to haul our water, whatever.
Right.
So that's usually what I tell the young ones. Language is kind of a hard thing, to really teach, because you have to, you really have to do it on daily basis, and I think maybe the teachings need to be done on daily basis, but nobody wants to sit down and hear anymore.
Mm-hmm. What do you feel is the part that's missing most? Do you feel like prayer is missing to help to create the dysfunction? A lack of prayer, a lack of understanding the culture, an abundance of shame? What do you feel are some of the most prolific causes for the dysfunction?
I think it's a lack of understanding the culture the way it was, because like for me, I'm not saying I have the answer to it, but I had to really how would you say, bring two worlds together, and I've lived in two worlds, so how do I apply, my culture and still be proud of who I am and still practice a lot of my ceremonies for what I believe, and what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a lack of really understanding the way it was, in the past, and how you could apply some of that, as strengths in your today's life.
Right.
So
right.
Those are just some of the things that this is just my opinion. I just really feel that, that you can talk, you can communicate, but this is one of the things, you can communicate, you can talk to people, but it's not going to work unless if they comprehend.
Exactly. I agree with that.
Yeah, and to comprehend is, like I say, you have to process that. It may take, a few hours, it may take, a day or two, maybe it may take a week, but, that's just the way it goes when you learn something. This is just my way of life,
Mm-hmm.
The way I learn
Mm-hmm.
is when I hear something, I have to think about it and look at it in all different directions and see how it applies,
Mm-hmm.
and then I get my understanding of it and to say, oh, okay, this is how I can apply it to my life.
Mm-hmm.
But that is what's wrong in today's world, is we don't communicate, and even if we do communicate, we don't comprehend.
And so, Chue, how do you feel about, in Native America? We're here in America, it is the melting pot. And so a lot of traditional families now have the introduction of other cultures into their family, into their Tio Shpaye especially. How do you feel that, the introduction of other ways, other cultures, other mindsets participates in dysfunction? Because now you've maybe got a rub inside of a household. We're not going to do it that way, we're going to do it this way. So do you feel like sometimes confusion of having multiple cultures within one teepee creates some dysfunction?
Well, I can only answer that with what I've experienced.
Uh-huh.
And for me, I've got some Korean kids, part Korean, they're part German. There's Crow, there's Cheyenne, there's Hispanic in my way of life. But I always tell my grandchildren, you are part of Lakota, you are part of Hispanic or whatever. Learn everything that you can about that part.
I love that. I love that.
Yes, basically, that's just one of the things that we have to do, and people don't really, people don't do that. Like I say, everybody is living life in the fast lane where they don't think about that as, okay, I should be proud of who I am. Every part of me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
makes me who I am.
Right.
So that's the only thing that I can probably say, and the only way that I had learned, and again, this was kind of like coming together with Ken in my life, when he came into our life. I had inferiority complexes. I really didn't know, what he wanted and what I wanted. And the best way was my mom said, you know what, if he loves you, he's going to have to learn about us,
Uh-huh.
So that was exactly what, I told him. I said, if you are very true to me, of you liking me and wanting me, I said, learn about our family. And I said, you could do that with my mom. And he used to spend every morning having coffee with her, and they became good friends. But that's how he learned.
Uh-huh.
And that's basically, I think, maybe she had a better way of explaining to him, but he took our way of life.
Mm-hmm.
The way we lived, our spirituality, the way we functioned, the way we did things. He was always very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
There was never any negation of anything that I wanted to do. I mean, all he would say is, okay, when do you want to go? How much money do you need?
Right.
Type of thing, So I think it's just basically, as we teach our own, and we got a little tacoja coming, and I kind of hope that we can teach that little tacoja some of the Lakota way, because he is going to be part of our family.
Uh-huh. I know. Elise is at the doctor right now.
Oh, good. But yeah, I think that's the only answer I can give you, is just to let them know that they should learn every part of who they are, because we're all a mixed race. I mean, like even at work, I ask questions of some of the Islamic people that work there, or the little Peruvian lady that works there. We talk, and I just want to learn about her, and they learn about me too, and it's becoming a quite cohesive group right now. It's just because we kind of understand each other. Why do you act the way I do? Why do I not look you in the eyes? It's just out of respect, and I tell them that,
Mm-hmm. So what you're talking about is educating, and in educating comes self-respect and respect for others, and whatever shame anyone has about being something other than what they've told is it's best to be. What you're talking about in education and compassion and acceptance helps to rebalance that dysfunction, from what I'm hearing.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And I think that's all of it. I mean, for me, that's the way that you understand, is, by asking questions, and I mean, whether if you feel like you don't want to, I mean, and I think I see people being afraid of each other, but that smile goes a long ways.
Yes, it sure does. It sure does.
Yeah, that smile goes a long ways, or even a compliment. I mean, I don't know a lot of people, but now, I mean, like a lot of the customers, they come seek me out, because I mean, there was just one day that I had complimented, a lady about her beautiful blouse. Oh, I said, I love your blouse. I said, that's a beautiful color. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, every time she comes into the store, she comes and stops in apparel section to see if I'm there. Hi, how are you doing? And we're starting to be friends now.
That's beautiful.
But it's just a compliment, because we're afraid of each other. We don't understand each other. The whole society has become dysfunctional because we are so afraid.
Mm-hmm.
We are afraid of one another.
Well, and that's what I so appreciate about your monthly show, Del, is that it's all about education and insight. And, I learned something new the other day. My Aunt Gwen, down in Hawkinsville, Georgia, has had a lifelong dream to visit Wounded Knee. And I had no idea of that. And so I made mention to her that, we can make that happen. And it has been on her bucket list forever
to be able to go and to visit that place. It's been in her heart and in her mind forever, even though she's way down in Hawkinsville, Georgia, always has been. And I thought to myself, how wonderful, whatever that is within her heart that says, I need to go to that place. We can make that happen. And there's so much compassion in the desire to want to go to some place like that. But then afterward, to be able to say, I was there, I touched it, I felt it. And to bring that home to Georgia.
Yeah. Well, that's all about learning. Cece and I are going to Moab, Utah. I've been having that dream about the newspaper wall, the petroglyphs.
Ah.
And so in September we're going there, and I'm just going to see. But those are just some of the things I think. For me, I gotta experience the physicality of a place, and I'm sure she's feeling that too. As I got to be there to really feel to fully understand.
Exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, with that, all I can say, all life is good if we can fully understand its purpose and our purpose in it.
I love that.
That's basically what it is. I think if we could just understand its purpose, why are things happening the way they do, to keep our minds open, and to appreciate this everything, because the universe, the world, and the people, we all have a purpose in it. But what is it? How do we come into contact? How do we know each other? How do we communicate with one another? And to see that we all belong together.
That's beautiful, Joy. Wopila.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good day, and maybe next month we will continue some of this. I kind of got off track. I wanted to talk about religion and relationships. I forgot about it. Okay.
Next month.
Yeah, okay. All right. You all have a good day.
Thank you, Joy. Bye-bye.